In this video, we are going to be looking at the probability of throwing a fair coin or a fair die. Now, the first thing I want to do in this video is to tell you what we mean by a fair coin or a fair die. Now, this thing here, fair, another name for it is unbiased. So we can have fair or unbiased coin, as well as fair. Another name for fair is unbiased die. Now, when we say a coin or a die is unbiased, it means that all outcomes are equally likely. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say we throw a coin. Remember, in a coin you can either have head or tail. So it's either you have head or you have tail. The meaning of this is that you can have the face of the coin or the back of the coin. So the face of the coin is known as the head, the back is known as the tail. Now, for us to have a fair or unbiased coin, it means that if I throw the coin, let's say 500 times, 250 of the times will have a head and 250 of the time will have a tail. They are equally likely. Does that make sense? The same thing for a fair die. You know, we have 6 faces of a die. Now, if each of the face is equally likely to turn up, we have a fair die. Do you understand? So 3, 4, 5, 6. If they are equally likely to turn up, we have a fair die. Now, let's take possible questions we can have under this. Now, we've got this question. If a fair die was tossed in the air once, what's the probability of obtaining A head, B, a tail? Now, I hope you've not forgotten the formula for probability. We have probability equals to number of required outcome all over number of possible outcome. So we have number of possible outcome. Now, when I toss a fair die in the air once, I can have 2 outcomes. It's either I have a head or I have a tail. Sure? Now, if I'm asked what's the probability of obtaining a head, it means the required outcome is 1. That's, we just have 1 head. And then all over, what's the possible outcome I could have had? 2. Do you understand? So we have A, probability of obtaining head equals to, we can just have 1 head. And how many possibilities do we have? 2. Does that make sense? Now for B, what's the probability of obtaining a tail? How many tails could we have? 1 tail. And what's the possibilities? We have 2 possibilities. Does that make sense? So the probability of obtaining a head is 1 over 2. The probability of obtaining a tail also is 1 over 2. Do you understand? Don't forget, we had 2 possibilities. That's why we're having over 2. And out of those 2 possibilities, we have just 1 head. And for tail, out of the 2 possibilities, we have just 1 tail. Do you understand? Let's take another question. Now, we've got this question. If a fair die is rolled, find the probability of obtaining number 1, obtaining number 3, obtaining number 3 or 4. Now, let's solve this. Now, remember, the first thing is to write the formula for probability. We have probability equals to number of required outcome all over number of possible outcome. So if I roll a fair die, I've got 6 possibilities. It's either I get 1, I get 2, I get 3, I get 4, I get 5, or I get 6. Does that make sense? Now we've got A. Find the probability of obtaining 1. So the probability of obtaining 1 equals to, how many 1s do we have in these possibilities? We have just 1. So we'll put 1 all over. What's the total number of possibility? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the probability of obtaining 1 is 1 over 6. Do you understand? Now let's do, what's the probability of obtaining 3? Now probability of obtaining 3 equals to, now in these possibilities, how many 3s do we have? 1. So we have 1 all over. What's the total number of possibilities? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the probability of obtaining 3 is also 1 over 6. Do you understand? Now let's do C. The probability of obtaining number 3 or 4. So we have C. Probability of obtaining 3 or 4. I hope you've not forgotten what I told you all represents in probability. It represents plus. So this equals to probability of obtaining 3 plus probability of obtaining 4. Now we've got the probability of obtaining 3 as 1 over 6. So we need to get the probability of obtaining 4. Then we can now slot it into this. Do you understand? Now remember, probability of obtaining 4 will be equals to, how many 4s do we have here? We have just 1 4, so that will be 1 all over. How many possibilities could we have had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So probability of obtaining 4 is still 1 over 6. Do you understand? So we slot it into the formula. Let me clean up so that we can get space. So it means we will be having probability of obtaining 3 or 4 will be equals to 1 over 6, which is the probability of obtaining 3, plus 1 over 6, which is the probability of obtaining 4. Do you understand? I just slot it into this formula. So we find the LCM. LCM of 6 and 6 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 2 all over 6. And 2 all over 6 will give us 1 over 3. So this here is the probability of obtaining 3 or 4. Now lastly, let's try to find the probability of obtaining 1, 2, or 6. 1, 2, or 6. So can we do that? Now don't forget the possible outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now remember, we've gotten probability of obtaining 1 as 1 over 6. Now for probability of obtaining 6, how many 6 do we have? 1. What is the possible outcome? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So probability of obtaining 6 is still 1 over 6. And probability of obtaining 2, we have 1, 2. So we'll put 1 over 6. Do you understand? So it means the probability of obtaining 1, 2, or 6 will be equals to, what's the probability of obtaining 1? 1 over 6 plus, what's the probability of obtaining 2? 1 over 6. What's the probability of obtaining 6? 1 over 6. Remember, the reason we add is because of the OR. So let's find the LCM. LCM of 6, 6, and 6 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have equals to 1 plus 1 plus 1 will give us 3 over 6. 3 here 1. 3 and 6 is 2. So we have 1 over 2. I hope you understand. Now don't forget, if you have a fair coin, the possible outcomes is H or T, head or tail. So if they ask you what's the probability of obtaining a head, you have just one head, so that will be 1 all over How many possible outcomes do we have? 2. So 1 over 2. Do you understand? And then for a fair die, the possible outcome is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the probability of obtaining each of any of them is 1 over 6. I hope you understand.